tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Sometimes maybe it's put in the form of a question. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. Thankfully, I'm not too familiar with court procedures, so I'm not very sure of the actual protocol in respect of this. But this is a sentence we all know, don't we, from nowhere else, from watching television and film. Immediately at the end of today's Gospel, which I asked to have read as well, the Gospel actually ends with the verse 37, and I did ask if you would read verse 38, thank you. Is that short statement, just left hanging in the air. What is truth? Pilate asked. What is truth? As I was beginning the preparation for this talk, the first thing I did, as I often do, is go to a site called Bible Gateway on my laptop. It's a really good site for looking up different scripture quotes, and you can just press a bring down and drop down menu and get all the different translations. So it's amazingly useful when you're preparing a sermon. And I typed in the word truth to see how many times maybe it actually appeared in the Bible. And I was given 228 as the total for the NIV. The Good News Bible said that there were 225. The New Living Translation gave me 269. And the King James said 224. So this word truth then, whatever it was in the original Greek and Hebrew, and they had several words for truth in the same way as they had several words for love, and we are much more restricted than them in the language that we have. It's been translated in different ways. So I wondered which of them is true in the way that we would understand it. Of course, this highlights the problem, doesn't it? As if I hadn't already decided that. That we have a dreadful job unpacking a word like truth. So next, to the Oxford English Dictionary. And as usual, dictionaries tend to define words, or often define words, in terms of other words, which doesn't make it very easy. I always remember looking up sarcasm once, and it said, a bitter form of irony. I thought, that's great, so I looked up irony, and it said, a bad form of sarcasm or something. I thought, that is just great, isn't it? Really, I've learned nothing. And I had a similar experience with truth. I got the quality or state of being true. Quality or state of being true. Well, that doesn't help, does it? As in, he had to accept the truth of her accusation. Another one was that which is true or in accordance with fact or reality. Well, I hope we'll be able to see by the end of my talk this morning that all truths aren't directly related to fact or reality. And another was a fact or belief that is accepted as true, as in the emergence of scientific truths. So the dictionary relied very much on the word truth to define the word true to define the word truth, which didn't really give me a great deal of help. I think being in accordance with fact or reality did shed quite a bit of light, though, on the world's understanding of the word truth. Okay, then let's have a bit of market research. I sent an email around a group of my friends from my address book. I think I sent it to 14 people. Who, some would have said they were believers, some would say they definitely weren't. I thought we'd get a cross-section of people here and say, didn't know whether they would bother to write back to me, because it's quite a big ask, isn't it, 2 days before you're doing something, to ask people to tell you what they think the truth is. Well, I must have some interesting and good friends, obviously, because most of them got back to me, a lot of them almost immediately, and the answers were fascinating, far more complex than I'd expected them to be, mainly. Predictably, they ranged from complex philosophical argument, very complex philosophical argument, to perceptions that truth was something that was found in the Bible. That truth is a religious thing. One friend, who is actually a non-churchgoer, actually quoted scripture as part of her answer. She used some of the Bible quotes about Jesus being the truth, which was quite interesting. But all this highlighted the difficulty of the task ahead, to identify what this relativist society that we live in today sees as truth. And to look and find, if we can, what other meanings there might be, particularly to the Christian. Somehow, I wanted to get my mind to move from the day-to-day human, modern, relativist perception of truth, along a little road which would take me to the truth of the gospel. "You are a king then," said Pilate. Jesus answered, "You say that I'm a king. In fact, the reason I was born and came into this world is to testify to the truth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me." That's my NIV translation, which is my study Bible, so I obviously use it quite a lot. In the modern paraphrase, the Message, which is a paraphrase rather than a translation, it's American, but often gives you a bit extra insight. They have, "Then Pilate said, 'So are you a king or not?' Jesus answered, 'You tell me. Because I'm a king, I was born and entered the world so that I could witness to the truth. Everyone who cares for truth, who has any feeling for the truth, recognizes my voice.'" So here we have Jesus appearing before Pilate, accused of claiming kingship. And he, Jesus, when talking to Pilate about this question of kingship, says it has a lot to do with the truth for which he came into the world. He claims to bear witness to the truth. He says to Pilate, "I came to be a witness to truth." And in response to that, Pilate raises that question: what is truth? The problem facing Pilate wasn't dissimilar to the one we face today. Pilate was in a very difficult position. He was trying not to upset either his Roman overlords or the Jewish leaders. What he thought himself was probably secondary to both of these. He was trying, in fact, to be politically correct. Many people today have the same problem as Pilate. Apparently in America, where else, there's a research group which provides statistics for churches, and they recently conducted a survey as to what Americans believe. And they asked them the question, is there absolute truth? 66% of adults responded that they believed that there is no such thing as absolute truth. Different people can define truth in conflicting ways and still be correct. In a series of more than 20 interviews conducted at random at a large university, people were asked if there was such a thing as absolute truth. Truth that is true across all times, cultures, and people. All but one respondent answered along these lines. Truth is whatever you believe. There is no absolute truth. If there were such a thing as absolute truth, how would we know what it is? In a world where such views are so widely held, is it surprising that we Christians ask ourselves, what is truth? We, like Pilate, worry about getting on the wrong side of others. We worry about being seen to be politically correct. You could probably ask me one thing in one place, and despite of all that I believe, I would stand up here in front of you in public and say something that was a bit different. I could easily say something today which Brian would tell you was different to something I said in a small confidential group when we were discussing things. We're all prone to that fear, and we're all susceptible to it. This political correctness comes through. But as Christians, surely we know and accept beyond any doubt that the truth is found in the Bible. Truth isn't just an idea of fact over fiction. Truth is not just words or beliefs. Truth's not just an individual viewpoint. Truth can be seen from many angles, but truth, in essence, is one man, Jesus. This prevailing philosophical wisdom that as long as you believe in God and try to be a good person, religion doesn't matter, may be politically correct, tolerant and reasonable. But as Christians, we can't and shouldn't accept that. Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me." This is one of those bottom line statements when we have to ask ourselves, do we believe him or not? Jesus is the truth, not just some truth, but the entire truth. He is God's definitive and perfect word, expressing who God is and what he is like, who we are and what we need to do to be saved from sin. John makes a statement in that very first verses of his gospel, the passage we often hear at Christmas and should be hearing very soon, no doubt. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. Thus, in one man, Jesus, we see everything revealed. Having referred to surveys and friends, of course, the Bible, I would like now to share some thoughts of a theologian. This guy's called A.W. Tozer. They used to call him a 20th century prophet, even in his lifetime. And he's mainly associated with a group called the Christian Missionary Alliance. If you want to put that into Google when you get home, you can. You'll find there are worldwide churches belonging to the Christian Missionary Alliance. And it's a very highly respected organisation. His thoughts are very profound. They make you sit up and think. In fact, they make you go, oh, sometimes. They often have me. And the sort of thoughts that have sometimes made me think, well, that's all very well, but and then I go away and think about it, and I think, I can't really escape the truth of what that man said then, like it or not. He says, when men deal with things earthly and temporal, they demand truth. When they come to the consideration of things heavenly and eternal, they hedge and hesitate, as if truth either could not be discovered or didn't matter anyway. It's quite a thought, isn't it? I think there's some truth in that. I'll just read a little bit directly from the book because there was so much to copy out and I didn't want to be too long. Mr. Tozer says, the essence of my belief is that there is a difference, a vast difference between fact and truth. Truth in the scriptures is more than fact. A fact may be detached, impersonal, cold, and totally dissociated from life. Truth, on the other hand, is warm, living, and spiritual. A theological fact may be held in the mind for a lifetime without it having any positive effect on the moral character. But truth is creative, saving, transforming, and it always changes the one who receives it into a humbler and holier man. It's quite a thought. So he says, not facts, but scientific knowledge, and not scientific knowledge, but eternal truth delivers men. Well, we know that, don't we? That eternal truth became flesh to dwell among us. Then he has a nice little list of what he calls the axiomatic truths upon which all human life rests. Fortunately, there are not many. And these are the chief ones that he's sorted out in his head. Only God is great. Only God is wise. Apart from God, nothing matters. Only what we do in God will remain with us at the end. Human sin is real. With God, there is forgiveness. Only what God protects is safe. Truth is creative, transforming, he says, and it always changes the one who receives it into a humbler and holier person. Serious thought. Only God is great. Only God is wise. Human sin is real, and with God there is forgiveness. In one man, Jesus, fully man, fully God, truth is revealed. Jesus is our revelation of what God's truth is. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. We, as individuals, have to decide whether or not we accept this. I do. I do find it difficult sometimes to stand by it, but I do. Amen.